Welcome to WTF Crypto. Today, we are recording live from ETHDenver, one of the most popular crypto conferences of the year, at least in the US. We're here today with Jay Jenkins, who's with Raleon, which is a really exciting company that actually Shipyard, our company, uses. And I'm really excited in particular to talk about marketing in crypto and marketing automation. This is actually a big industry in Web 2, and it explains a lot about like how you interact with Web 2 products. In crypto, things don't work the same, but over time, it's going to get more and more mature, and it's going to help you engage with products, and it's going to explain how products engage with you. And so, really excited to dig into it.
Yeah.
Because I think we're all users, and it helps us understand our user journey.
Yeah, Mark, I'm stoked to be here. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So why don't we start just by stepping back? Could you give me and the audience a little bit of context for why you're such a good guide and expert on this topic?
Sure. So my background, I'm a reformed banker. Then I journeyed into fintech. I did a stint at BlockFi, where I ultimately was managing our credit card product. And so my experience at BlockFi was really, it was a lot of things, but on the credit card product in particular, it really highlighted how difficult it is in crypto today to apply very well-established marketing strategies, techniques, tactics in a crypto world, right? And there's a variety of reasons for that. We just had a really, really hard time with it. And so that ultimately is what led me to Raleon, which is a Web3 marketing platform. And our goal really is to take the data and make it valuable to you as a marketer. We talk about community building. How do you do that? You do it with marketing. Right. And there's tactics that people have learned and applied from pre-internet, Internet 1, Internet 2, and now today we should also be applying those same tactics to Internet 3.
That's a great point. Very quickly, can you explain what BlockFi is to help contextualize that?
Yeah, that's a great point. I take it for granted. BlockFi was a centralized finance. It was basically a crypto bank. So the core business model was accept deposits in the form of crypto assets and then loan those deposits out to retail users, traders, or our larger business was actually on the institutional side. So with a business like that, there's also services you sell on top of it, credit card being one of them, others. So the risk there is if I take your money and then loan it to someone else, I'm dependent on getting that money back because it's your money, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened in 2022 is when the market kind of collapsed, there was a loss of confidence and everyone said, I want my money back right now. The problem was the loans were one, going bad, and two, we couldn't pull the loans back in quickly enough to fulfill all those deposits. And that's a bank run. I mean, that's the classic bank. It's happened for thousands of years that way. And we're unfortunately not immune to it either.
I don't think there was a single lender that was immune to it. So,
well, the DeFi protocols did pretty well.
Well, that's
so we may have figured it out. Yeah. Finally, CeFi did not have it figured out.
Yeah, and Joe, you're here helping DeFi protocols.
That's right, and here we are at ETHDenver. So it sucked. It was really unfortunate for our users. We had a huge team, like 800 people, so like everyone lost their job in the end. And so it's a serious and like really sad thing. But through that experience, it was good for me as a learning thing. One, because it was very difficult. I grew as a manager and as a leader in the product organization. But two, it also really showed all the areas where we need to improve. Some of it being marketing, some of it being risk management, some of it being who do you trust, who do you not trust. And we can get into this if you'd like to, but my experience at BlockFi is what led me to the Raleon product. And that's actually how I became head of product at Raleon, because it solved my problem. I had a very acute problem at BlockFi within our credit card business. We couldn't solve it for a variety of reasons that we can talk about. But on a 30-minute demo, co-founders of Raleon solved the problem, gave me the answer, handed over this spreadsheet with the data that I was looking for, and they were like, yeah, no big deal.
All right, well, let's start by thinking into that problem.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot we're probably going to be able to unpack.
Yeah, I think so.
So what was that problem?
So it's a bank run. So the way you stop a bank run is, one, you reestablish trust. There's only so much that I could do there. Two, you do everything you can to get assets back on the platform. The more assets you have, the more stable, et cetera. So everyone was rallying around this cry of how can we attract more assets onto the platform? From our credit card point of view, the idea we came up with was, let's look at our existing cardholders and identify who are the high net worth and ultra high net worth cardholders, offer them a bespoke card You have CryptoPunk number 400. Here's your card with your punk on it. If you catch the limit,
Oracle you.
yeah,
I'd love to. Unfortunately, I did not.
that's right. Same. And in exchange for that opportunity to have a one-of-one, kind of card, bring me some assets. Bring me $500,000, $1 million, whatever. So the problem we had was all right, cool idea. Let's test it. Well, to test it, I have to have a list of who are my high net worth clients, what CryptoPunks do they have, and let's go talk to them and see if that's something they'd be interested in. So we go to the data team, and BlockFi had a first-class data team, the full modern stack. We used Amplitude and Segment. We had Databricks, and all of it was flowing together, and we had social monitor, whole stack. Despite that, no one, due to a variety of reasons, lack of resources, 2 rounds of layoffs, priorities, no one was really, low priority project in the grand scheme of things. We didn't have developers to go out and do the hard work, querying Dune and finding out, and kind of spidering through the chain to figure out who in our portfolio has 10 million, 30 million, 50 million, and what's it. We couldn't do it. So we're like, well, shoot, what are we going to do? Can't engage with engineering, higher priorities. The marketing team were basically business people, right? Spreadsheet folks, not really SQL, superstars.
And take data out of the blockchain.
And it's also really hard.
Yeah.
Strategy team couldn't help me. So I go to the market. Who's out there? Who can help me? A lot of APIs that'll just give you the fire hose of data. Doesn't solve my problem. I'm working with a non-technical business team. That data is, maybe we could figure it out. Not really helpful. Stumble across Raleon. Raleon's whole shtick was, we take Web 2 data, Web 3 data, and bring it together in a no-code format and allow you to do stuff with it, particularly marketing stuff. So I schedule a demo. I call the guys. It's like, cool. Well, we loaded in BlockFi's smart contracts in our omnibus. We spidered our way across the blockchain. Here's your ultra high net worth clients. And here's a list of all the NFTs that they own. 30-minute demo. So, I banged my head against the wall for 6 weeks trying to figure this out.
And there's a whole class of software that helps with this in the traditional kind of Web 2 space, right? And that's a data problem, right? And it's also kind of an interface problem. Like, you need marketers to be able to grapple with that data, pull the data they need, and I suppose also trigger things with that data, right? So can you tell us and the listeners a little bit about like what that class of software is in Web 2, and like explain how and whether they actually, and we actually may have interacted with that without even knowing?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple, marketing is very broad, right? So there's a few different angles within marketing that attack this problem. There's a concept called performance marketing. And what that means is I'm going to run a campaign and I'm going to measure every single step of that user's journey, ultimately leading to a conversion. And at that conversion event, I know the value that it provides to my company. I sell an iPhone, I get whatever, $1,000. In crypto, maybe it's, I make a trade, right? And there's a fee collected, or there's, whatever the mechanism is. That's very difficult in crypto because you have the campaign, which is on Twitter or email or whatever, and they go through your website, they open your dApp, they connect your wallet, they do all this stuff. They eventually do the thing on chain you want them to do. And there's no real good solution today to connect those things. On the Web 2 side, this is like Mixpanel, Google Analytics, suites of products that I think most, digital folks have experienced before. You take it up a level, you can go even deeper. There's Amplitude, there's Segment, there's a class of products called CDP, customer data platforms. And they allow you to sort of store your user data to go market again. So this is not exactly performance marketing, but it kind of bleeds into it. But it gives you that ability to build relationships with your clients, to understand them in deeper ways, to shape your product to better match their needs, and then ultimately, sell more things to them, provide more value to them, and build loyalty. So the ultimate goal is what's the lifetime value of your client, not what is the transactional value of your client. So again, same kind of products, it's a similar thing. Now you have this data, you have to do stuff with it. To your point, you have to take action. That's where marketing automation comes in. So it's the ability to build workflows over that data about your customers and over your product. So when they take certain actions on your site or in your dApp or in your mobile app or whatever, you know that that's the moment in time when they're most likely to do the next thing that you need them to do to deepen that relationship. So in the context of a game, it's things like player progression. You get them into your game, Cool, they're playing. That's step one. Now let's sell them an NFT to unlock something. Maybe it's a weapon or skin or something like that. Once they've done that a few times, then let's get them into your marketplace and do some secondary sales. Maybe they can borrow, or excuse me, maybe they can put it up and lend it. Maybe they can borrow somebody else's NFT, right? So you're growing in your ecosystem in that way.
So it's tailored surgical messaging to individual users around where they specifically are in the user journey at the time they're in the user journey, as opposed to like one mass.
That's right.
It's like probably a very simple example is like, if I add a bunch of things to my cart on an e-commerce site, I don't buy it, I get an abandoned shopping cart email. And like, that's a very simple example.
That's exactly right.
And that's actually a big data problem, not trivial actually to solve. Okay, got it. So this is like, I mean, anyone who's used the web starts to get amazed at the type of prompts and targeting and like ads, that are personalized to them.
You start talking in your house about some topic, and then all of a sudden, without clicking a button, you're getting ads.
Yeah.
It's not that they're listening. It's that they have 17,000 data points about your behaviors, who you talk to, where you've been, what you've, et cetera, et cetera. And they're able to infer that you're probably going to talk about that thing that you talked about.
Oh, wow. That is amazing.
It's creepy. But that's what they did. Yeah. That's
better, but I'm glad that explains it.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather be predictable than spied upon, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they are spying. I don't know, but that's how the marketing side of it actually works.
Every time that happens, my wife and I are like, we're like, did you Google this? Just talking about this. And often we're like, oh, well, maybe we were talking about it at our friend's house and they had Googled it from their IP address and now it's associated with us. And so that's why we're getting it. And we always look for a reason why it's not just Alexa listening to us. But sometimes it's really hard. And so the predictive aspect actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So, all right. So crypto is a very different beast. The probably biggest thing that I tend to explain to Web 2 people is the fact that like performance marketing doesn't work in crypto. Like no one runs Google ads. Partially, no one runs Facebook ads. Partially because Google and Facebook don't let crypto companies run.
That's true.
In Google ads, right? So it's not really an option on the table. What that does is changes like very quantitative approach to performance and conversion-based marketing into what honestly marketing like used to be, right? Which is like community, brand, messaging, events, fun stuff.
That's right.
Right? A lot of the reasons people got into marketing in the first place. But ideally, you tie that together with data and have a marriage of those. Like, I think Web 2 has probably gone too far in the other direction where it's just too performance, too data oriented, right? And so crypto is a really cool playground, but it seems hard to bring the data in. We have struggled immensely to bring the data in. Could you help us understand like why that's so hard? Why doesn't Segment just do it? Like why is it so different and why is it so hard?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's a couple of things. The first thing is that it is very hard to get data. It's more difficult than you think to get that data off of the blockchain and into a usable format that a marketer could do something with. There is the base layer itself. So understanding what is the wallet, how do I go look at it, what are the assets, et cetera. But then there's also the smart contract layer, which there's standards, but each protocol, each dApp implements it in slightly different ways, right? You may have one dApp that has 3 smart contracts. There's, with a handful of functions in each. You have another dApp that does similar things, but has 47 smart contracts. So where's the wallet data stored in that web of 47 smart contracts? And that could be different for every single dApp out there, right? So today it's a ton of manual work to understand what do the event logs look like? Is it decoded? Does my data provider even do that? Even support that? Do I have to go spin on my own node to go figure out and find this data? So the data side today is very difficult.
I see. So you have it. So the one problem is, the blockchain is like a series of changes. It's not like a steady state.
That's right.
You can just query. So you have to rebuild it. But then besides that, it's like every application actually has its own code and almost like database structure and logic that's on the blockchain. And you actually have to understand all of that for each client in order to even decode what this data means.
That's right.
And that's a lot.
Yeah, even the best data providers, they're doing their best to index these as fast as they can. but the space moves so quickly that you just can't keep up.
Yeah.
So if you're a DApp and you're launching, you want to go market, well, you've got to figure that out for your specific use case. And you've got to figure it out for your competitors, because you need to understand, those are the users that you want to also sell to or to engage with or to bring into your community. It's a lot of work. It's really, really hard.
It's a lot of work. It almost sounds impractical as a service provider to keep up with.
Yeah, I would say use a provider. And maybe I'm biased in that regard.
Yeah.
The other thing about crypto and blockchain is we've become very fixated on the wallet. I want wallet analytics. Okay, there's value in that, no doubt about it. But that really misses, I think, a subtle, very important point is there's a human being on the other side of that wallet. And that's the person that you actually are talking to. You're not talking to. I have a ton of wallets. So which one of my wallets are you talking to?
Yeah, it's like if you were in the credit card marketing, right? It's like if you were like acquiring people, you were acquiring credit cards, not the users behind those credit cards.
Exactly.
You'd have 10 different credit cards who were, I don't know, signed up to your fraud monitoring system, right? And really you have one customer.
That's right.
So if you just focus on the credit cards, you miss the story.
That's right. And the story is about that human. What value is your product or your DApp giving to that human? What is their problem and how do you solve it for them, right? And so that's the core of marketing, is understanding, and that's more like product marketing, but what is the value of this product to our users and prospective users? And how do I communicate that to them in a way, that competes in the market, makes it easy to understand, and then keeps them coming back, right? So it's that engagement and retention element that comes next.
Yeah, I mean, one of the features of blockchain is that people can control their own identity. They can be pseudo-anonymous, right? One of the flaws of blockchain is it makes it really hard to know who's who.
Yeah.
That makes marketing real hard.
That's right. And especially when I think there's two things there. One, it's really hard too, because you need to connect that human being lives off-chain. So you have to connect this off-chain entity with their off-chain activity to the wallet or multiple wallets to be able to paint that full picture of where did I come from? What do I care about? What have I done for you? Or what should I potentially do for you to get value? I completely just blanked on the next thing I was going to listen in there. But it's all about the human.
I already blanked on the question I asked you, so I'll just ask a different question. It's hard to do marketing well when you don't actually know who the individual is, and you're dealing with a bunch of, individual things that one individual might be doing. You don't even know if it's the same person. And the thing about that is it's not like just a business problem, right? It's like bad marketing is a bad customer experience too.
That's great. Yeah, you're right.
Right? So it's not like everyone's marketing sometimes sounds adversarial. You're just convincing people to do things, but really it's like you're trying to help people get what they need in the most efficient way possible. Right? And at least that's a generous spin on.
Yeah, I believe that personally. Yeah. And so they're solving their problem. How do I tell you how I'm going to solve your problem?
Yeah, and so that's in some ways a problem for users as well. Okay, but there's a lot of techniques, I presume, where you can start tying that together, right? Like someone comes to a DApp, they have an IP address, they use a wallet, then they connect another wallet in the same session. You can tie that together, and you try to build this big database, and probably you're going to have a lot of hanging chads,
sure.
Right?
Yep.
But it's something.
Yeah.
And so is that basically the approach, that you're like trying to tie this all together and figure out which wallets are who and how they connect to normal Web 2 data that Google Analytics pick up?
Yeah, very similar. For us, the philosophy is much more respectful of privacy than I think current Web 2 standards would hold. I think that's just a reflection of crypto. Because to your point, like a big element of crypto is I want to be anonymous or pseudo-anonymous when I want to be. And if I don't want to be, that's cool, but it's my choice. And we really respect that. I mean, I think that's a smarter way to do it. Because I want you to give me offers that make sense for me. I don't want you to spam me with stuff that I don't care about. So I should be in control of that. So our technical approach has been to avoid cookies. We don't do pixels. I don't want to track you when you leave the office at night and go home to your family and all this kind of stuff, right? My goal is to engage with you to solve the problem that my DApp, is able to handle. Did it again.
I don't doubt that, but there's another side of it, which is people in crypto are real good at preventing you from doing that too, right? Like they use Brave browser, which is very good at, preventing cookies.
Yeah.
And, they use VPNs and they're very good at OPSEC to kind of hide their identity. And so, I think there's like a philosophical alignment, but also like a hard constraint. It's like, even if you didn't feel that way, it's not clear that you could be successful in doing what you want to do.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I wonder how much of an option it even is in your perspective to try to do the stuff that isn't philosophically aligned with you.
Yeah. I think there's an element of how much do you need to get the marketing successes that you're going for? Like, do I need to be able to predict that, like we scheduled this afternoon, like do I need to get ads about podcast equipment before you even ask me? No. Right. So like there's a point where the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And so that's sort of where we're trying to figure out right now in crypto is how much privacy can we preserve, but still give you the tailored offers so that you're aware of the solutions to your problems. So is it perfect today? No, I don't think it is. I think it's on the right track. I think it's a better philosophy. Like the philosophical grounding is better than many other Web 2 approaches today. But you're right. There is a trade-off. Is I can't be completely private and share the information that any algorithm or human being or anything else would need to even identify that I have a problem. And so I think most humans would be okay with that trade-off. And it's just a question of how far does it need to go?
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, cool.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So this is something that, there's one other data set that I struggle, like, how do you work in, which is in crypto, there tends to be the web data for people who are interfacing, the on-chain data, wallets, transactions, money flows, etc. And then there's like community interactions, like in Discord, in chat applications, that's really like off chain and off web.
That's right.
Do you think about integrating that in any ways?
Every day. Like that is the three pillars. We need product data to understand what's going on and, are we converting? We need Web 2 data to understand where people are coming from and sort of who they are to sort of marry up on and off. And then there's community data, because that's, I think the community element is, it's a new concept. I think crypto does it in a really, really positive, powerful way that you don't see in Web 2. And so who are those folks in your Discord that are adding the most value? And what can you do to not even necessarily shape the product around them, but reward them with value that's meaningful to them in the context of your community so that they stay and they continue providing value, or they're force multipliers for you. So for example, maybe, if you're like for the DEX example, you identify your top 10% of traders. You say, okay, of those who are highly active in my Discord, so that subset, let's offer them an elite role. So you recognize them when they come to your DApp. However you engage with them with that, message. Say, you're like our number one customer. We love you. Here's your ultra special elite role in Discord. And now you have this extra capability that you didn't have before or something like that. We're going to put you on a pedestal because you're awesome. And so you start doing that kind of stuff. And then that's very powerful, because then you're sort of building a network effect within your own platform, like a megaphone almost.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, cool. Well, I'm excited to see what comes down the pipe there.
DAO participation's another good one. Same thing. There's a big important vote and your participation's been low, or maybe it's been great. I guess it doesn't matter, but it's an important one. Let's alert the community. So when they interact with your property, whether it's in the Discord or somewhere else, hey, everybody, we're voting. Come to the forum. Take a look at this.
Yeah.
Follow the vote back in the
That is a whole nother aspect of like business building, right? In a decentralized context, you don't just need users and conversions. You actually need to engage a voter base.
Yeah.
To hold your governance tokens to actually help make decisions.
That's right.
Right? I mean, it's like political lobbying and campaign lobbying. It basically makes, honestly, it sounds a little exhausting. It basically makes like every DeFi protocol that's decentralized like a two-sided marketplace. I'm getting tired just thinking of it.
It kind of is today, but it's important because if it's going to work, if this new structure is going to work, we have to find the right level of participation. And it's probably not 100% people vote, but it can't be 1% either. So it's finding that balance. And I think to your point, you don't want it to end up being a lobbying campaign necessarily. You want it to be fair and participatory. So how do you entice people who tend to vote to continue to vote? People who haven't voted, it's the same thing. It's just a different conversion moment.
Yeah, man. Okay, cool. And just walking around this conference, talking to people, there's a ton of companies that are trying to tackle this problem now. Why do you think now there's been a Cambrian explosion of like data, marketing automation, marketing attribution companies?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I think part of it is crypto has, at least from what I can see, reached escape velocity. Crypto's not going to go away, right? There's huge question marks with things like regulation and everything else around the world. But like you come to ETHDenver and it's overwhelming. The excitement. I mean, the affordable bear market, like we've all had a really bad 12 months and people are so stoked. They're just excited to be here. The community is as strong as ever. My dad, 75 years old, asked me about crypto. My wife wants to know about crypto. I think we've reached escape velocity. So with that maturity, you're seeing the investment, not just in the infrastructure layer and the sort of base use cases to bring people in. Now it's like, okay, what do we need for this next inflection point? How do we keep people? Part of improving user experience is improving marketing. Think about your wallet, how many spam NFTs you have in there. That's bad marketing. We need better marketing, right? It's part of the maturation process. So I think it's a signal of escape velocity. I think crypto's here. And I think it's going to stay. And so now the tooling is leveling up.
Yeah. Well, makes sense. All right. So, what else do you think is interesting? Do you have any rants or fun facts that you like to talk about, or cocktail war stories about crypto or the conference, or anything you think would be entertaining to share with our audience?
Yeah. Top of my head. So let me turn it around on you. So sure. I don't think you guys have a booth here.
No.
Why not? From a marketer's perspective.
Well,
not to just throw that out at you.
It's a good question.
And I have a follow-up. I'm setting you up for an observation I had today.
All right, sure. So we're a B2C project. I find that booths are a little better for B2B projects where, like, if you're at a conference, businesses are sending their people for the most part, right? And this is a little bit of a conference, a little bit of a convention. Like a convention, I think, is when a lot of users and people and fans come, right? But it's a conference. And so, we developed Clipper, and Clipper is a B2C product, right? It's a decentralized, peer-to-peer. But, and so because of that, there's not like enough leverage to make the investment in cost to have, but also like the time to staff a booth. You talk to 40, 50 users, which just isn't actually that much in the context of a consumer-oriented product.
Yeah.
And it almost is a little more a booth is a little more sales than marketing, I guess I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, you put your salespeople out there and they go shake hands and represent your brand.
Is that the answer you were expecting?
Honestly, that was a really good answer. I've spent a good portion of the day going to booths and just being like, so what's your marketing goal of this? This is cool. I like the swag, your stuff, your signage looks great. What's your goal? And it's been really interesting. A lot of folks just kind of look at me like I'm just some crazy person off the streets of Denver. No real answer. Some people are like, oh, we're here to sell. And it's kind of what you were describing. B2B, it's like, we're here to meet customers. We're here to meet prospects. We're here to sell. That's cool. That's very measurable. They'll have a lead list. They'll be able to convert. They can manually, put it in Salesforce and they'll have their campaign stats. And then others, the B2C booths, the good B2C booths have answered, it's about brand. And so they have, thousands of stickers on the table, maybe a hoodie or two, but it's really stickers. And you can see the sort of tactical shift that they're doing there. Because they don't, to your point, they're not going to meet but 50 users today, but they're going to give out 10,000 stickers.
Yeah.
And those stickers are going to show up on water bottles and backpacks and laptops and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So suddenly that reach becomes really, really far. So it's been really interesting to sort of gauge the thoughtfulness behind why are we doing a booth? Why are we doing this conference today? Is it about reach and branding? Is it about converting leads and like driving revenue? Or is it just like, we're going to make it, you know?
You know, that's interesting. And I think it harks back to earlier in our conversation. Like, why are all these marketing automation attributions and data companies starting right now? And I think in large part it might be because during the bull market, I mean, you didn't even have to do data. You'd like throw things out and things would work. Customers would come. Everyone's looking for airdrops. It's just like, you know, it's just easy because there's this massive tailwind.
Yeah.
Right. Then all of a sudden that stops as a headwind. Right. And now you have to think about like, oh, okay, how do we be thoughtful about getting our users, building our brands? You have to ask why.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we have to allocate scarce resources. And like the first thing you do is like, okay, well, let's look at the data. And so now people care. Whereas I guess over the last few years, they probably just didn't care.
Yeah. It didn't matter.
Like everything was working. They didn't need to.
And they knew their ROI was above the threshold. They didn't know what it was. They knew it was good enough though.
Yeah.
And that heuristic, just keep going.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's been fascinating. I've really had a good time just talking to people at the booths. Yeah, it is. So my background's fintech, right? So this is my first crypto conference, and it's the culture. It's like perfectly chaotic. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like,
That's a nice way of putting it.
yeah, it's like chaotic good, right? Yeah. Everything is happening at the same time, at the exact same place. And there's literally like 1,000 different threads going here. And like contrast that to like, pick your bank, like the Bank of America conference. It's here's the agenda, you know, show me your license and passport to get in and like, let me take your fingerprints and be at this place for this date at this time. And it's just so rigid and structured. And the vibe here is so cool. And hey, if it works, just do it. Don't wait for permission, just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is the crypto culture.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we go, first, can you just give a little shill for Raleon? And then can you let people know how they can find you or follow you to learn more?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on Twitter at RaleonHQ, or you can find us on the interwebs at raleon.io, RALEON.io. Raleon is a marketing platform that's really designed to do three core things. One, we help you understand your users and prospects with Web 2 and Web 3 data in a single platform. That allows you to do things like user personas, buyer personas, segmentations to target subsets based on characteristics that matter to your DApp. With that, competitiveness, things like this. With that information, we allow you to take action and actually engage and retain your users by prompting them with personalized messages that matter to them. Because we're able to understand who they are on-chain and off-chain, and now we can present them with things that we talked about. If you're special, here's your role in the Discord. We see you like yield, we can offer you better yield. Whatever makes sense for your DApp, your creativity is limitless on this. And then once we are able to take action and then drive that through a campaign, the final pillar, the final corner of the triangle is measurement. We allow you to understand what was the reach, how many uniques, did they convert? We can visualize the full funnel and actually track the conversions on-chain or off-chain. So that's sort of the cycle. We're going to understand, we're going to take action, and then we're going to measure. And that's it. That's marketing. That's our flywheel.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was great. I appreciate it, and I hope you have a really good conference.
Thanks, Mark. This has been awesome. Thank you.
And for all our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, and especially if you didn't, please leave a review and a comment and let us know what you liked, what you didn't like. We read every single one so that we can get you the content that's most helpful to you. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.